welcome to example 2 of graphing points on the coordinate plane. So we went through all the important parts. Let's just try another example together just to make sure everyone is comfortable with the process. So I am going to first look at each of my axes, and I want to make a consistent scale. So I notice that I have to get all the way up to 40 on the x and 8,000 on the y. So if I look at the lines going across, there are 20 lines there. So I have to get up to 40 divided by my 20 lines means I have to count by at least 2. For the up and down, if you count, there are 16 lines up and down. So the 8,000 that I need to get to divided by 16 turns out to be 500. So each line has to be at least 500 going up and down. Now there's a lot of lines here, and as I said before, sometimes it's easier and even keeps your work neater to skip a line. So I'm going to go ahead and label this one as 4. Now, I've skipped 2. I'm still counting by 2s. I'm only writing down every other mark, though. So that's 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28, 32, 36, and 40 right there at the end. I'm also going to take a second and label this as GB, which is gigabytes of storage. That's the label for the x-axis. Okay, then going up and down, as I said, I could label every single line as 500, but I'm just going to go ahead and mark every other as 1,000. So that's 1,000. This is 2,000. Especially if you have larger handwriting, it might get so crowded that it's hard to even fit things in, and so it'll look even neater if you skip, even though maybe the inclination is to think it's lazy. Maybe it's an attention to being neat and tidy with your work here. Okay, 6,000, 7,000, and 8,000. Great. Let's also label over here. We'll call this photos, of course. How many photos? Before we forget, let's go up to the top. Remember, we're going with a y versus x label. So this is photos versus gigabytes of storage. Terrific. All right, we've got all our labels, x, y axis, title. It's time to start graphing some points. All right, so I notice 3. 3 is the first value, but it's not one of my numbers. That's okay. Remember that this here is 2, and so 3 is halfway in between, and it's going to be 3 and 600. Now this line is 500, so 3, 600 doesn't fall on an exact intersection point of our grid lines, but I'm going to estimate it to be right around, right around there. Seems like probably about 3, 600. Okay, next I'm going to go over to 8. Okay, that's one of our grid lines, and up to 1,600. Now this is 1,500, so 1,600 probably about there. 16 up to 32, so maybe about there. And then at 32 on the x, we're going to go all the way up to 6,400. So that line's 6,500, so we'll go just a little bit underneath that for 6,400. And then finally 40 with 8,000 right smack down dab in the upper left-hand corner. So that's a second example of graphing points on a coordinate plane. There's some more examples for you to try in your packet.